Welcome to Essential English. Your journey to English mastery starts here. Whether you're a beginner or looking to level up your language skills, we've got you covered. Our channel is packed with engaging content that will make learning English a breeze. From grammar tips to vocabulary boosters, we've got it all. So grab your pens and get ready to dive into a world of words. Explore the pages of our virtual library, where books come to life and knowledge awaits. Let our animated globes take you on a linguistic adventure around the world, discovering new cultures and expanding your horizons. Join our community of language enthusiasts and embark on a journey that will transform your English skills. So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and let's start this exciting journey together. Essential English, your passport to fluency. Let's get started.
Lesson 18. Roger's first day at school. Frida. A short time ago I had a very pleasant weekend at my friend Phyllis Cooper's house. Young Roger, that's Phyllis and Frank Cooper's little boy, had just had his 5th birthday. It was a rather special birthday for him since, as soon as an English child reaches the age of 5, he must start attending school. I was very interested to hear Frank and Phyllis discussing his education, and I thought you might like to hear about it. Mr. Priestley. I'm sure we shall. I think you will all like to get a little sidelight on English education. Please go on. Frida. Well, it was only after a good deal of thoughtful discussion between Phyllis and Frank Cooper that they had finally decided that Roger should go to his local primary school. Phyllis, to begin with, would have preferred Roger to go to one of the small, private schools in the district. The fees aren't very high, she had said to her husband. And he'll mix with much nicer children than he'll meet at the ordinary state primary school. Footnote 1. See The Gardeners and the Coopers. By C. E. Eckersley and L. C. B. Seaman. Longmans. I know the fees aren't high, had been Frank's answer. But don't forget we have to pay for state schools through our rates and taxes. I don't hold with the idea of paying for the upkeep of a school and then not making use of it. Besides, when you talk about the nicer children at the private school, don't you merely mean that their parents have got more money than most people? Perhaps I do, but some of the children at the primary school don't come from very good homes. Do they? I don't want Roger to pick up any bad habits of speech or a lot of bad manners. Frank laughed. Let's risk it. You mothers do so want your boys to be nice, clean, well-spoken little creatures, don't you? Personally, I think that if you and I give him an example of good speech and good manners, what he happens to see and hear at school won't really harm him very much. I'm afraid that argument doesn't hold water, answered Phyllis with a smile. The things you said this morning when you couldn't find a fresh pair of socks in your drawer weren't exactly examples of polite speech, were they? That's a very unfair remark. My dear, said Frank with a laugh. But I didn't feel quite as fresh as a daisy first thing this morning. Besides, said Phyllis, there's another thing about these state schools. The classes are so large. Mrs. Robinson says they have over 40 in a class. Classes are much smaller at the private schools. Isn't that very much better for the children? I'm afraid, replied Frank, that children of all ages do find themselves in larger classes in state schools than if they went to private schools. But I do know this, that nowadays infant teachers in state primary schools are very good. I do think they know their job, and I believe they work wonders sometimes, even if they do have classes of over 30. Look here. Why don't you go to the primary school and have a look round? They'll be quite glad to let you see the school. So Phyllis and I called to see the head teacher of the infants department and came away quite charmed. We both liked the head teacher's enthusiasm and quiet efficiency, and above all we liked the teacher who was in charge of the 5-year-olds class. The 30 children in the room were seated in small chairs around a number of low tables. They were all of them very busy and very interested in what they were doing. Some were cutting out small pictures with scissors. Special blunt scissors. for hands and fingers that were not yet expert. Some were solemnly coloring in outline pictures with chalks. Others were working with modeling clay. But when the teacher told them to stop what they were doing, they did so with what seemed to me quite unusual rapidity. After all, I thought, there are 30 of them and there aren't any of them a day over 5. The friendly but not overexcited conversation that took place as the scissors and other things were collected and put away gave us both the impression that here was a happy school which Roger would enjoy and in which any habits he learned would certainly be good ones. The head teacher told us that in the infants department the object was to introduce the children to the art of living together and to develop not only the skill of reading and writing and counting, but also to train the hands, the body and the imagination, drawing with colored chalks and painting, dancing in time to the music of the piano, the handling of scissors and modeling materials, the acting of little plays. In all these ways it seemed that Roger's day at school would be filled both usefully and happily. After that Phyllis talked no more of paying fees to a private school. "Will you want Roger to stay to school dinner?" the head teacher asked Phyllis. "What do you advise?" "I think it's best if they start staying to school dinner right from the beginning," the head teacher said, "even though it does make the day seem rather long to them at first. As you know, the cost is very little and we take particular care that the infants, above all, get a really satisfying meal." "Yes, I see," said Phyllis, a little doubtfully, "but Roger is rather fussy about his food. I'm afraid I've always tried to give him just the things I know he particularly likes." The head teacher smiled. She had heard remarks such as this 100 times before. "Don't worry, Mrs. Cooper. We don't force the food down their throats. You know, I think it does them good sometimes to eat things they're not used to. Of course, he's bound to grumble. Children always do grumble about school dinners. But after all, if Roger came home every day and said he liked school dinners better than your dinners, I think you'd be quite upset, wouldn't you?" Phyllis laughed. "They have milk in the morning, too, don't they?" she asked. "Yes, a third of a pint. That's free, of course. By the way, it's a small point, I know, but then children's lives are made up of small points. You might give him a little practice beforehand in the art of drinking through a straw. That's how we drink our milk in school. It's said to be the cleanest and healthiest way of doing it." The great day arrived. Roger, having become an expert at the art of drinking cold milk through a straw and now looking as clean as a new pin, far cleaner and neater than he will ever look again for the rest of his school days, is about to begin the great adventure. It will never be known which of the two was the more nervous, Roger or his mother. "I do hope he'll like it, Frank," she had said several times to her husband. And Frank had said cheerfully, "He'll just have to like it, my dear. After all, he's got to go to school on most days of the year for another 10 or 12 years. "Yes, but some people have such trouble. Peter next door was very difficult about going to school when he first started. Only for a little while. They say he's as keen as mustard on school now and can hold his own with any of the boys. Stop worrying, my dear. And remember, he'll be in the hands of people who are probably much better at handling children than you or I will ever be." Phyllis recalled to mind the teacher she had seen on her visit to the school and felt happier for a while. But even though she told herself she was being silly, she was still as anxious as ever. So, holding his mother's hand very tightly, Roger walked with Phyllis and me along the road to Greenfields County Primary School. On the way to the school we were joined by a friend on a similar job. Mrs. Jenkins was taking her little girl Susan to school for her first day. The two mothers spent the rest of the 10-minute journey assuring Roger and Susan in bright, cheerful voices that nothing in the world was nicer for them than that they should be going to school together. "You can play with Susan at playtime. Phyllis told Roger. And Susan's mother said to Susan, "You can sit next to Roger at dinner time. Can't you? That'll be nice for you. Won't it?" Both children dutifully agreed that it would indeed be very nice. But what views they really held about it nobody would ever know. In a fairly large room at the school, the head teacher was receiving the newcomers. As each child's name was called, the mother was told to slip quietly away. Susan was as quiet as a mouse, but one small boy was protesting against the whole educational system by roaring at the top of his voice. "Take him away," said the head teacher quietly to one of her assistants. The small boy was led off to a distant classroom, his roars getting gradually fainter, and the remaining mothers eyed their own children, each secretly hoping that her child would not make a scene. Roger's name was called. He, too, passed into the classroom and into the charge of the pleasant young woman whom we had seen on our first visit. And Phyllis went home to a house that seemed, after 5 years of Roger's daily presence in it, strangely quiet. Phyllis and I were at the school gate well in time to meet Roger when his day ended at 3:30. She was bursting with impatience to see him, and even began to worry when he was not one of the first 5 children to come through the school door. He came at last, and, thank goodness, all smiles. His teacher, who came to see him across the road, said he had been as good as gold. He had, he said, a lovely time and a lovely dinner, and teacher had told them all a lovely story. And they were to bring some flowers to school to decorate the classroom, and could he please pick some from the garden as soon as he got home. And so ended Roger's first day at school. Hob, do you know the story of the little boy who went to school for the first time? When he got there, there were 3 entrances. On one it said, girls. On the second, boys, and on the third, mixed infants. Because small boys and girls worked together in that department. When he got home he said, "Mother, I'm not a little boy now. I'm a mixed infant." Idiotomatic English. 3. Comparisons. In Lesson 18 you probably noticed these idiomatic comparisons. Roger was as clean as a new pin. Peter is as keen as mustard. Susan was as quiet as a mouse. Roger had been as good as gold. There are many of these comparisons. Here are some of the ones most frequently used. As black as coal. As black as ink. As bold as brass. As brave as a lion. As brown as a berry. Usually said of a person who is very sunburnt. As busy as a bee. As clear as a bell. For a sound, e.g., a person's voice. As clear as crystal. As clear as day. For things seen or understood. As cold as ice. As cool as a cucumber. For a person who doesn't lose his head. Dead as a doornail. Deaf as a post. Dry as a bone. Dry as dust. Usually said of a book. A talk. A lesson. Drunk as a lord. As easy as ABC. As firm as a rock. As green as grass. As happy as the day is long. As hard as iron. As heavy as lead. As hot as fire. As hungry as a hunter. As light as a feather. As like as 2 peas. As mad as a hatter. As old as the hills. As quick as lightning. As regular as clockwork. As sharp as a needle. As strong as a horse. For work. As strong as a lion. For fighting. As weak as water. As wet as a drowned rat. As white as snow. As white as a sheet. For a person who is ill or badly frightened. Verb study. 16. Hold. In Lesson 18 you had the sentences. Holding his mother's hand tightly, Roger walked to school. But what views they really held equals what they really thought about it nobody would never know. I don't hold with the idea of equals I don't believe in. I'm not in favor of paying for the upkeep of a school and then not making use of it. Peter can hold his own with equals compete with is as good as any of the boys. I'm afraid that argument doesn't hold water. Equals is not a good one. Will not bear close examination. The chief meanings of hold are 1. To keep in the hand. To grip. The child held a pair of scissors in her hand. The man held a pipe between his teeth. 2. To contain. These shelves hold all my books. We can't tell what joys or sorrows the future will hold for us. I held my breath as the car turned the corner at 60 miles an hour. 3. To support. The walls of the house hold up the roof. 4. To keep in position or condition. Hold your head up and keep your back straight. You must hold yourself ready to go to South America at a day's notice. Exercises. 1. Word study. Use the following. Weekend. Birthday. What do you say to a person on his or her birthday? Attend. Note its use in Lesson 18. Sidelight. Local. Primary. Fee. Taxes. Compare taxis. How do taxes differ from rates? Daisy. Scissors. Note this word is a plural. Blunt. What is the opposite? Chalk. Note the pronunciation. Chalk. Clay. Habits. Skill. Satisfy. Also satisfaction. Satisfactory. Fussy. Use also fuss. Noun and verb. Throat. Grumble. Practice. Use also practice. Pin. What's the difference between a pin and a needle? Neat. Mustard. Roar. I. As a verb. Infant. 2. Note the sentences. Some of the children at primary schools don't come from very good homes. Page 184. Some were cutting out small pictures. Some were coloring pictures. Page 185. Copy out these sentences putting some, someone, something, somewhere, or any, anyone, anything, anywhere, in the places marked by a dash. 1. I should like to hear about English education. 2. So should I. I don't know about it. 3. Is there here who does know about it? 4. Have your friends children? 5. Are of the children over 5? Yes. Of them are 6. 6. I can't find my book. Look again. It must be in this room. 7. Have you cigarettes? No, I haven't. I must go and buy. 8. I want cigarettes. Please. Have you Turkish ones? 9. Is wrong with my car? It won't go. Perhaps it needs more petrol. Look and see if you have. 10. Can't you give us more difficult exercises? Can answer these easy ones. 3. Explain or give another word or phrase with roughly the same meaning as the following phrases from Lesson 18. 1. He'll mix with nicer children. 2. I don't want him to pick up bad habits. 3. First thing this morning. 4. They work wonders sometimes. 5. The 5-year-olds class. 6. They were coloring in outline pictures. 7. They did so with quite unusual rapidity. 8. He's bound to grumble. 9. I think you'd be quite upset. 10. Phyllis recalled to mind the teacher. 11. Both children dutifully agreed. 12. Receiving the newcomers. 13. One small boy was protesting against the whole educational system. 14. He roared at the top of his voice. 15. Her child would not make a scene. 16. Phyllis was at the school gate well on time. 17. She was bursting with impatience to see him. Footnote 1. If you are not sure about some and any, see Essential English. Book 1, page 129, and Book 2, page 172. 4. Comprehension exercise. 1. Why is 5 an important age to an English boy or girl? 2. At which schools in England do you generally pay fees? At which schools do you generally not pay fees? 3. Why did Phyllis want Roger to go to a private school? 4. What arguments did Frank use for sending Roger to a state school? 5. When Phyllis and Frida went to visit a classroom, what were the children doing? 6. What did the head teacher say were the objects of the infants department? 7. In what way was Roger's time at school going to be filled both usefully and happily? 8. What reasons did the head teacher give why Roger should have his dinner at school? 9. How did she answer Phyllis's doubts? 10. How much milk did Roger get at school? What did he pay for it? And how did he drink it? 5. Complete the following idiomatic comparisons. A. As black as hard as green as brown as white as cold as clear as cool as firm as easy as dead as strong as. B. As a sheet, as a needle, as water, as the hills, as a lion, as a drowned rat, as lightning, as a hatter, as 2 peas, as clockwork, as the day is long, as a post. 6. Use each of the following in sentences of your own. 1. Hold the view. 2. Hold with. 3. Hold one's own. 4. Hold water. 5. Hold one's breath. 6. Hold up. 7. Hold oneself ready. 8. Shareholder. 9. Hold a person back. 10. Hold out hope. 11. Hold in respect. 7. Composition exercises. 1. Describe, in about 150 words, Phyllis's and Frida's first visit to the Greenfields Infants School. 2. Describe, in about 250 words, what happened on Roger's first day at school. 3. Write a short essay on one of the following. 1. Your first day at school. 2. The true aim of education. 3. The educational system in your country. 8. Study this picture and write the story. Reproduced by permission of the properties of Punch. The bank robbery.
Thank you for joining us on Essential English. We hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Remember, learning English can be fun and exciting, just like our little friend here. Don't miss out on more engaging English lessons by subscribing to our channel and hitting the bell icon. Stay connected with us and join us next time on Essential English. Together, let's unlock the world of language.